Duato was once asked in an interview, "What is your style? How do you describe your style?" And he said, and I quote, "It's contemporary, of course, but with a very strong classical base. I don't think a modern dancer with no classical training could work with me. You must have the turnout, the pointed feet, the graciousness the classical dance gives the dancer." So here again we have an example of ballet building on its past, building on its strengths, but opening itself up to the new possibilities that were created by modern dance. Okay, and that brings me to the postmodernists. Now, the moderns rebelled against ballet. Well, they had their own little rebellion with their next generation. Martha Graham's own dancers, people like Paul Taylor and Merce Cunningham, they start to rebel against her idea that every movement had to be expressive. They started to argue that, why do we have to express anything? Why can't we just move? And this led to the radical experiments of the postmodernists. Now, if modern dance is a tricky term, postmodern is even trickier. But at its simplest, it was anti-Graham. But it later included postmodernists such as Yvonne Rainer and Twyla Tharp in her early days, to name a few. And they began to argue for movement that didn't pretend to be anything. And they started to argue for any movement could be dance if we say it is. Now, I was looking for a dance image that would convey this really well and didn't find one, but I bring you this. It's the 60s, New York. They're all talking to one another. And what you see on your left is a painting by Morris Louis, who started to say about painting, why do we have to pretend to paint a portrait or pretend to create a landscape? Why do we have to pretend to have perspective or pretend to make something look like it's third dimensional when it's not? He said, why can't we just be about paint on canvas? It's like the modern dancer saying, why do we have to pretend to express emotion? Why can't we just move? And then you had Andy Warhol who's saying, anything is art if I say it is. So the modern dancers started to, the postmodernists started to do all these radical experiments where they would push mattresses around on the stage, where they would have someone just sitting on a stage eating a sandwich or putting curlers in their hair or whatever they said. And they said, it's art if we say it is. And there's a wonderful interview with Twyla Tharp where she said, eventually we had to sort of reconsider this, but she said at one point we thought, and we don't care what you, the audience, think. We're not here to entertain you. We're here to make art. And it is what we say it is. If we put it on stage, it's dance. So with the postmodernists, anything went. You no longer were restricted by the classical ballet vocabulary or any of these modern dance vocabularies. Any movement could become dance. And that brings me to Sabrina Matthews. Now, again, ballet eventually opened itself up to these radical ideas and adopted them as its own. And in Ein van Viel, Sabrina Matthews' work, it reflects this great freedom that choreographers have today to do whatever they want. There's no story to Ein van Viel. There's no emotion except possibly the joy of movement. And there's all kinds of movement. When you see this work, you'll see things that look very balletic. You'll see things that look very modern, but you'll also see running and walking and all kinds of quirky movements that just come out of her imagination. And the movement's only limited by her creative imagination. So you'll see all these wonderful quirky moments too. It's also gender neutral. It's a duet that was originally done for two men, but in Spring Showcase, depending on the night you come, you may see two men, you may see two women. Anything is possible. So to sum up, the four works in the Spring Showcase will be these excerpts from La Bayadère, which are just the pure dancing parts, classical ballet at its best. Scotch Symphony, which is this sort of look back to the Romantic style in ballet. Jardy Tankat, which is very modern, and Ein von Veel, which is ballet in all its postmodern glory. So coming back to what I said at the beginning, the showcase really showcases the incredible richness of ballet at the beginning of the 21st century. And it showcases the remarkable range of movement styles that the students in this school have to master, and brings us back to how critically important it is that the school continue to innovate new movement techniques so that not only will the students be able to master all that ballet is today, including its past, but that they will be able to take ballet forward into the 21st century, both able to adapt themselves to whatever new choreographers come up with, and hopefully they themselves to be the ones that will carry the art form forward into the further into the 21st century. So I thank you.